Okay, what if I told you there's a plant out there that can make you feel happier with very little side effects or issues with dependency? It could lower the inflammation in your brain, it can help heal your gut, it can make cannabis stronger. I know it sounds like a lot, might sound too good to be true, but it's not. This is a plant called Kanna, and it's been used by human beings for hundreds, if not thousands of years at this point. So you may have already heard of Kanna. It's been gaining a lot of traction and popularity here in the West over the past 5 to 10 years. You really used to have to order this plant sort of in bulk from some farmer overseas or something like that, but there's this really new, interesting market developing around it here within the West. And because of that, there's all these extracts being made. There's tinctures, there's gummies, there's sprays, you name it. And there's a lot of hype right now around this plant, and rightfully so. And so today I'm going to be breaking down the pharmacology, the history, the effects, all the whole gambit, so you can get a better understanding of where this plant comes from, what it does to the brain, and what you can kind of expect from it. So Kanna is this succulent plant native to Africa, and some of the indigenous groups have been using it there for a very long time. Its use dates all the way back to sort of prehistoric times with the Khoisan people, who really valued it within their daily lives, primarily as a sort of as an aid on hunting expeditions. They really praised it for its ability to both give them energy and crush their hunger at the same time while they're in these long hunts. But they also seem to appreciate the sort of mood boosting and social bonding element that Kanna brought to their society as well too. And traditionally they would take the Kanna, they would ferment it, and then they'd either chew it or like snort it, smoke it. It was usually one of those. And there's a few other tribes actually spread out around Africa that have a rich history of usage with Kanna themselves in their own unique sort of way. Kanna has really interesting pharmacological activity that's still being sort of studied and explored, but what we do know about it so far does seem pretty magical. A lot of people refer to Kanna as sort of like nature's MDMA or nature's antidepressant. And this isn't really a perfect analogy, but it's pretty accurate at the same time. It does seem to provide people with this very natural sort of tactile serotonergic boost and mood boost. It has a whole host of alkaloids that are also being studied right now as to what exactly they're doing, but there is this handful of alkaloids found within Kanna that are thought to be kind of the primary constituents of the experience of Kanna, or driving a lot of its psychoactivity or effects, and that is mesembrine, mesembrenone, mesembrenol, and mesembranol. I probably butchered those a little bit, and that's okay. So all of these alkaloids that I just mentioned have serotonin reuptake inhibition activity, some more than others. And this is different than your sort of pharmaceutical SSRIs. These are SRIs, whereas these are serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Usually pharmaceutical SSRIs are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And so what this means is that there is a selecting for serotonin, an increase of serotonin within those synapses. So it selectively increases serotonin. Whereas a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, it can do that to serotonin, but it can also do that to other, sort of neurotransmitters as well too, things like dopamine. And unlike these sort of pharmaceutical SSRIs that once again are selecting for mostly serotonin, these natural SRIs don't seem to have a lot of the same negative side effects like emotional blunting or depression or suicide or all this long list of effects that can come with pharmaceutical SSRIs. It does not seem like these natural SRIs have the same sort of long-term downregulation in our serotonin levels. Once again, these alkaloids all have some SRI activity. Ones like mesembrine has higher levels of this SRI activity, while mesembrenone has some SRI activity, but it also has something called PDE4 inhibition, which helps lower the inflammation in your brain. And that's a really big deal. Like, inflammation in the brain can lead to things like, cognitive decline, memory problems, confusion, seizures, headaches, fatigue, brain damage, strokes. Like, it's a really, really core problem to a lot of mental illnesses is neuro sort of inflammation. Not only is this PDE4 inhibition lowering inflammation in your brain, It's also increasing what's called cyclical adenosine monophosphate, CAMP, which leads to greater sort of neural communication and neuroplasticity. So similar to the same way that a lot of people preach about the neuroplastic effects of psilocybin or of lion's mane or something like that, it helps you create new connections in the brain, can help you get out of depression. Kanna seems to do something somewhat similar in its own unique way via the PDE4 inhibition. So another really important part of Kanna is its MAOI activity that it has. MAO is monoamine oxidase, and that's an enzyme responsible for breaking down, neurotransmitters within your body, things like serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. And MAO is actually split into two subtypes. It's MAOA and MAOB. MAOA is more responsible for the breakdown of neurotransmitters, like serotonin and norepinephrine, whereas MAOB has more of an affinity to break down things like dopamine. And it looks like whenever you inhibit MAO in one of these areas, that it leads to an increase of these neurotransmitters, which is why sometimes MAOIs, which are monoamine oxidase inhibitors, have these sort of powerful antidepressant, stimulant, sometimes even like psychedelic-like effects on people. And it looks like Kanna is primarily an MAOB inhibitor. So this means that Kanna is also via the method of monoamine oxidase inhibition, increasing dopamine levels at the same time as well too, which is helping to increase your mood, has like neuroprotective benefits and things like that. Not only does it do this by itself, but here's the interesting thing, is when you combine something like an MAOB with dopaminergic compounds, there is this pretty pronounced synergy. And one thing that's commonly reported with Kanna is it potentiating cannabis. It does seem like Kanna's sort of MAOI activity is less pronounced than a pharmaceutical MAOI, but with that being said, there is dangers that can come with MAOI-like compounds, so, just be safe, stay mindful, do your research. I'm not trying to glorify this thing, I'm just kind of laying it all out for you, what it's doing and why it has the potential to enhance things like cannabis. Kanna is also really good for your gut health as well, too, interestingly enough. And this is for a few different reasons. One of those reasons is this increase in serotonin within the body, and 90% of your serotonin is created in the second brain down here within your gut. But then it's also simultaneously lowering a lot of inflammation in the gut, which is where a lot of the problems come in with gut health issues, is inflammation in there. It's also thought to be a natural prokinetic, just essentially meaning that it helps things digest and move around more efficaciously. And on top of all of this, Kanna itself, experientially, but then also there's these physiological reasons that I can describe to you why it's helping you relieve stress. It pretty reliably helps people become less stressed, and this is also another big sort of core root issue of a lot of people's gut health, is stress and anxiety and things like that. And there's a bunch of other alkaloids that they're discovering within Kanna right now that they're researching, things like delta 7, mesembrenone, tortuosamine, selenium A, selenium B, like a bunch of these different compounds. And it's likely that down the road we're going to find out more about this plant and how it's sort of affecting our body. But the question might be at this point in the video, okay, how does this all translate? Like, how does this actually, what does Kanna actually feel like? And it's a bit complicated and different for everybody. It'd be disingenuous for me to tell you exactly what Kanna is going to be like for you. For some people, it doesn't seem to be that efficacious. Then for other people, it seems to be massively efficacious. At the right sort of dosage, most people do sort of report this mood boost that's sort of simultaneously euphoric and energizing and also relaxing. It seems to have this kind of adaptogenic effect in that way, where if I take the right dose during the day, it typically has this somewhat energizing type of feel, and then a larger dose in the afternoon does typically have more of this relaxing, sedating-like feel to it. And that might be just dose dependent, but It does seem to be a bit adaptogenic, at least for me subjectively. Kanna doesn't necessarily get you quote unquote high. There is some psychoactivity to it, especially at larger doses, but it's almost kind of like a hyper sobriety. You're still very much lucid, you're still very much here, you're not inebriated per se, but there is this heart opening, serotonergic, lovey dovey feel that can sometimes be tranquil and a bit zen. In terms of like dosage and frequency of use, the most honest, true answer is that you kind of have to figure that out for yourself. Do your own research, start small, work your way up. The dosage varies quite a bit depending on the person, the dose response curve. But then on top of that, you add the layers of like, all right, are you buying raw Kanna? Are you buying fermented Kanna, which is thought to be slightly more potent? Are you buying Kanna extract, which can be wildly more potent? Please be careful with that. Yeah, it really varies a lot on the product that you're buying and the route of administration in which you're using to consume it. In terms of frequency, I know people who use it every single day and don't have issues. I know people who use it every single day for 2 months and then they get this feeling that they need to or want to take a break for a little while. I know people who use it very selectively here and there as almost kind of like I said at the beginning of the video, a natural MDMA substitute, and we'll even take it going to like raves or music festivals and things. And please be careful with your dosage, because while Kanna does seem to be very well tolerated and safe for most people, if you take too much, and you can do this with some of these extract products and things out there nowadays, it's not that hard. If you take too much of it can lead to things like, this sort of serotonin overload that has nausea and weird fluctuations in body temperatures and overstimulation. You definitely don't need to take Kanna with any sort of prescription SSRIs, SNRIs. You don't need to take it with MDMA. And you don't need to take it with like other prescription MAOIs or central nervous system depressants, just kind of in general. These are really the only instances where Kanna can get dangerous for people. So if you are looking to like make a switch or want to try this, start small, work it into your regimen. Speak to your physician, clinician. I'm not a doctor, I'm just some guy on YouTube. But with all that being said, the overdose potential for it alone does seem to almost be non-existent, and that's when it's used alone. There has been, I think, like one animal model study where they directly injected mice with like an extremely large dose of Kanna extract, and they did die. I think it was a pretty like ungodly large dose. But with all that being said, it's kind of like I said earlier, please be careful with these products and start small, especially any sort of extract product. And now with that being said, there's a lot of companies cropping up wanting to sell you Kanna. Some of them are efficacious, some of them aren't. It is one of these weird markets right now, and so all I can tell you is that if you are going to try Kanna or want to try Kanna, you really need to pick a reputable sort of vendor. And so if you're looking for some high quality Kanna, you should go check out our website, Minnesota Nice Ethnobotanical. We got the highest quality Kanna, Kava, Blue Lotus, Amanita, the whole gambit, with ethical sourcing. So yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that it was informational and valuable to you. But other than that, peace out and much love.